Hello everybody and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Jack Simpson podcast. On today's episode we've got on Ben Pears. Welcome.
How you doing?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Nerve-wracking to be here, but here we are.
Yeah, so we spoke a bit off air beforehand, and yeah, Ben's putting himself in this situation because this is as sort of least comfortable he can feel. So yeah, I wanted to get you on, Ben, because obviously I've heard from a lot of the boys at Jiu-Jitsu. We do Jiu-Jitsu together. About obviously your weight loss and your weight journey. Obviously, I've got you on Instagram. I've saw your past videos and stuff like that of your journey, and it is something that resonates with me quite a lot. Obviously, a lot of the listeners will know that I've been on a similar journey, not to the extent of yours. Obviously, yours is astronomical. But yeah, so it is something that resonates with me, and obviously in today's sort of age of an ever heavier population that we're getting, it's just something that really resounds with me, yeah, big time. So
yeah, well, no, I'm glad it inspires in some.
It does. You're a very sort of humble man, I would say, just from my experience with you, and you don't seem to want to big yourself up a lot.
I think it's more a case of I don't know how.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of the things that I do are very impressive. I think they're pretty standard. And I think a big part of that is because I don't compare myself to everyone around me. I compare myself to whoever I can see is doing the best. So yeah, I don't think the things I do are that impressive. So losing all the weight, everyone's told me wow, it's such a massive achievement. It's such a huge thing. To me, it just happened. It wasn't one day I woke up and oh shit, it's all gone. It just happened. It was just there. It was just part of my day to day. But when you asked me to do this, and when I thought more and more about how did we get here to a point where someone wants to hear my story, I thought there is a story to tell here. The last 3 years have been, before the weight loss even, have been an incredible turning point in my life. And I suppose, everything leads up to there somehow.
Yeah, definitely. So do you want to give us a bit of a backstory then, obviously, on yourself, growing up, how Ben came to be in front of me now?
Well, I started off the same as everyone else did, just before I was born. And I was born in South Africa. I grew up born in Cape Town, but I grew up in Joburg. Lived with my dad my whole childhood. So my parents separated when I was 2 or 4, and my mum moved to the UK when I was about 6.
Right.
So I lived with my dad, my older brother, and my sister, and yeah, that was I suppose a major part of making me who I am. So yeah, growing up in South Africa is very.
Just try and keep the mic a bit closer.
Growing up in South Africa is very different to here.
Right.
Things are a lot more. I suppose you take them as they come. Really, it's a bit more of an adventure, and whereas here things are quite easy. I would say, my life wasn't difficult. I grew up. We lived relatively middle class. My dad did all right for himself. Everything was always, the next big thing, or we're going to make it, or we're not going to make it this month. Money was always tight, but we never went for wanting anything. But even then, I think back on it, and we lived this pretty standard life, or to me, what I thought was standard. But then I talked to my brother when, recently, as adults, and I look back on how my kids are growing up and how I want them to grow up, and I think, oh shit, it was different. It was real different. So, we always lived in a nice house, but where we would have 4 rooms, 3 of them would be occupied with lodgers at any one point.
Right.
As a kid, I was oh, that's just normal. These are the lodgers. They live in the house, We all shared a room at one point. It wasn't for very long, but it happened. One of my most popular or my favorite things when I think about it was the time my brother and I shared a room. we had like 2 living rooms in our house, and we had the downstairs one, my brother and I.
Right.
And that was super cool. You know, like my brother was my hero growing up, like constantly. He's 7 years older than me.
Right.
So yeah, living with him, like that was super cool. But yeah, upbringing was pretty standard. Other than that, you know, as far as South African upbringings go.
So you obviously mentioned the lodges there.
Yeah.
Like, what was that sort of a setup? Was that obviously like a B&B sort of thing?
No, it was so we'd rent out the house. We'd rent the house from a landlord, as you normally would.
Right.
And then what my dad would do would be to rent out the rooms to individual lodges, and that would pay the rent.
Right. Okay.
So when apartheid changed, like there's very many different versions of this story as to why my dad changed his careers. But his was when apartheid changed and BE came into, which is Black Economic Empowerment, became a thing, then he was made redundant essentially, and started to find a new career and found a new love in life. I've always known my dad not as a software salesman, but as a salesman in general. And you know, at one point he did massage. He's a massage therapist. He taught Argentine tango for ages. Like, you know, we had a dance studio in our living room at one point. Like, so I was always exposed to different things all the time. But it was a very like entrepreneurial mindset. And I think there's one thing when you're doing that as a bachelor and you're trying to, you know, really push yourself to the next level, just trying to risk it all and go for it. There is a different element to it when you've got 3 kids at home.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're trying to make it work. And I'll give my dad all the credit in the world. He rarely tried, all the time. Every time, just tried. And he never stopped trying, which is more than I can say for most people.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, like my dad formed the largest part of my upbringing. And I think he had the biggest effect on me more than anyone else. My mum not being around had a massive effect, but in its own way. Whereas my dad being around would have had more of an effect because he was there. You know, it's for positive and negative. You know, I can say a lot of the insecurities I have come from my dad. But a lot of them wouldn't exist at all had my mum been around.
Yeah.
You know, or that's my theory at least.
So with your insecurities then, what sort of insecurities do you have?
So, like, confidence is a massive issue for me. And it's weirdly so, not in performance, like you've seen. I'll fight in front of whoever wants to. It brings no problem to me. But if I say something, you know, when I talk, I worry about stumbling over my words.
Right.
And a big issue to me is sounding like an idiot.
But do you not think, could you not put yourself in a situation where, like, you stumbling over your words, whatever, do you not feel that you thinking about it more and, you know, running it over in your head so much would mean that you're more likely to, because you're putting it at the forefront of your mind?
Well, yeah.
Whereas if you can look at, like you said, obviously I've seen you compete, and obviously you competed many, many times. And for you to say to me that confidence is an issue for you seems outrageous, because you're performing on a literally, you know, you're doing super fights now as well. And that is, you make a mistake, that's it, you've done. So you've got to go in there with an element of confidence in your own ability and all the rest of it. And to be able to even perform in front of eyes just shows like that. I don't know. It's strange how confidence shows itself, I would say. Because to me, if you said to me, like, I've been training Jiu-Jitsu now for 6 months. So that's as long as we've known each other. But if you were to say to me, you know, what would you say? Would you say Ben's confident or not confident? Which category would you put? I would say confident all the time, because you come across as being someone that is confident. Obviously, you know your jiu-jitsu. Like, whenever we roll, you're always giving me the pointers and all the rest of it. You don't seem to sort of shy away from leading the dance, shall we say. and and saying, oh, you should have done this rather than this. Whereas there'll be some people that maybe wouldn't open up if they were, if they're not as confident.
So, like, the way that I overcome it is, I was actually talking to a friend about this last night, or the night before, Saturday night. And the way I think about things is very logical. I break things down in my head, and the most obvious path is the one you just got to take. It doesn't matter whether you're scared or not. That's ridiculous, So I think when I say I struggle with confidence, it's not so much that I lack, like, fear overcomes me. Fear doesn't bother me at all. Like, not very, very little things. Like, things scare me, but that doesn't affect my actions.
Yeah.
Because I think being scared is a good thing. It's good for you. But letting it overcome you, that's where it becomes a bad thing.
Yeah.
So when, like, say we have a role, we're both there to learn. We're both there to become better at jiu-jitsu. That's what we're there for. Obviously learn a lot rolling with you. Because, your strength, your speed, all of that. It's something, there are obstacles I have to overcome.
Yeah. But
afterwards, me talking you through what I thought was a good pointer, or sometimes, or not so much, as the case may be. To me, that's something I have to do so that I can get better.
Yeah.
Me explaining what happens, and I've been wrong before. I've said after the role, oh, this is what happened, and it might have been better if you'd done this, and I was wrong. I'm not right every time. I'm still new to this. Been doing it 18 months, but like, this is a method for me to learn, because teaching something or talking about something is understanding the process behind it and looking at it from very different situations. But that didn't come naturally to me, and it's not that I don't mind the talking. It's that I never think anyone wants to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
So, it took me a long time to realize that I have the skills. I'm like relatively good at jiu-jitsu. I'm a blue belt. I'm not world renowned, but like, I'm better than someone who's just started, and I have something to offer them. That took me a long time to realize, like a very, very long time. Winning competitions, I always thought, and people have said it, I hear a lot of, like, I hear about people saying, oh, he got lucky. Oh, he just got the easy fights. Oh, he got that, 30 tournament wins now and stuff like that. And like, at one point, I've got to stop believing that it's luck.
Yeah. I think that, and this is from me, obviously I had my first competition at the start of this month, and the adrenaline and the rush, like everything because you are very, it's very apparent, and you're very aware that any mistake is going to cost you. And it's not like rolling on a Thursday night where you just, oh, you got me, tap, bomb, and you just go again for the rest of them 5 minutes. And I was, much, much more aware of that. So when I was getting in positions, obviously I could hear you and, Colin and Junior, everyone shouting the bits and pieces. But I was just sort of, right, if I can just maintain this side control, or, when I was in mount, I feel comfortable. I'm comfortable here that he's not going to be able to change positions. And if I can hold this position, I'll win the fight. That was, do you know what I mean? I was like negating my risk. I was like, right, I did. And then obviously Colin's like, move up. And I was just like, no, because if I do, then I might be too high. Then he can, do you know what I mean? All the rest of it. So I was like, I was much more cautious in my sort of approach to it, which I think then eradicates that luck factor of someone catching me in something. If they get me because they're better, they're technically better or whatever, then fair enough. So yeah, the luck side of it, I think, is outrageous, especially because for you, you're rolling. You're in the ultra, aren't you?
Yeah.
So that's 100 kilograms and above. Like, everyone's your size or bigger. So the luck side of it, I think, is just, I think it's a cop-out, really, to be honest.
I think for me, though, it's that I believe it. I believe that it's lucky. If I look back on my fights, if he had put his foot 2 inches backwards, I've never taken him down. But he didn't. And they never do.
Yeah.
And the more and more those feet end up in the right place, or the arm just reached just at the right time, or something like that.
But you've still got to have that knowledge to know what to do with that arm or that foot.
So I've always liked the saying, luck is when opportunity meets preparedness.
Yeah.
And you can prepare for every situation in the world, but you're really unlucky if the one you didn't crops up.
Yeah.
And the more situations you prepare for, the luckier you get. And I'm a firm believer in that. But you can't prepare for everything, so you've got to have a backup plan. And the way I fight is very different to how I do a lot of other things. I go into a fight with one game set in mind. I don't have backup options or something like that. I've one like series of events that I expect to happen, and if they don't happen, like things have gone wrong.
Right.
And if you notice, if you watch all my fights, they all follow a very similar pattern. The takedown's very similar. The control's very similar. The end move's very similar. And the longer the fight goes on, you can see they go in the very same way. Obviously, being a fight, there's unexpected situations.
Yeah.
And I think as I got better and my opponents got better, I was put into those unexpected situations more often. And I had to learn how to deal with them. But it's always fighting to go back to that original plan. So like you say, it's different to a Thursday night roll where you're trying new things. If it goes wrong, well, it doesn't really matter. You're going to do another roll next. And but like to me, it's just going straight for that one plan and just following that. And sometimes it's gone wrong. And obviously I've lost a fight and I've not won everyone. But I feel like coming off that track is always just fight to get back to it. And it's the same way, like I try and do other stuff that way, but it never works because in other parts of my life, everything's so different. But yeah, giving that one track mindset, but then being able to work within that and work with other variables, the luck gets better.
Yeah, definitely. So we've gone sort of massively off piste already. So growing up, obviously, with your mum moving to the UK, why did she move? Do you know?
Well, so that's a long story. That's a very, very long story. My dad will have one story. My mum will have another. Everyone else will have a theory. I think the truth lies somewhere in between it. And I think the truth is South Africa's a tough place. My mum didn't have a good time there. And yeah, so she needed to come here. My gran lived here.
Right.
Was a big part of it. So my mum moved and she was closer with her. My mum was very young when she had me. So she would have been early 20s when she moved across here. Or mid 20s, I suppose. And, I was already walking and talking. And, I remember my mum in South Africa. I was old enough to remember her. And when she moved here, like, I'll never know why. She'll tell me. I believe her. I believe the things she tells me. But yeah, I guess it's just one of those things. I'll never know why. But what I do know is, as I grew up, all I ever wanted was to come here, to be with her. And that was made very difficult. My dad believed that he was the best caregiver for me, and I think my mum agreed with him when she moved.
Right.
But obviously, when you're a child, you don't know these things. You don't understand who's caregiving and stuff like that. The greater good, I suppose, is the one for the word. But what you do end up with is you just have this longing, and that's something my dad had to deal with, was going over this like a little boy who wants his mum.
Yeah.
But having to say no at the same time. And I fought hard. Like, I have this, as a kid, I had this undying stamina to, I could throw a tantrum, and like most kids can tantrum maybe for an hour or so, and then they're exhausted, they fall asleep. Like, I could go 3, 4, 5 hours non-stop. And to be fair, my dad took that relatively well. He was always very kind to us in his own way. And he was very good in those situations for the most part, except for when he wasn't.
Right.
But yeah, for the most part, I'll always give my dad credit there. I was a tough kid, but I think that heightened emotion, that very intense emotion, and I like to think I feel very deeply in everything that I do. So if I'm sad, I'm incredibly sad. If I'm happy, I'm incredibly happy. If I'm nervous, incredibly nervous. You know, whatever the case may be, I think I feel it like very strongly. And I never thought that before. I always thought everyone was like that.
Right, yeah. I've never thought about that, to be fair.
Yeah, like when I see people and they're enjoying something and they're just enjoying it. They're just like, yeah, this is a good time, and then they go home and they don't think about it. They come back to it next time, whatever. But like when I go to jiu-jitsu, I'm so into that. Like I'm so proper. I go home and I think about it.
Yeah.
I lie in bed and I think about roles that I had, like, you know, because like I'm so passionate about it. But that feeling's not new to me. That feeling of passion. If I pick up anything, I get really into it. Jiu-jitsu just happens to be one of the ones that I stuck with.
Yeah.
You know, doing it for 18 months is one of the longest I've done nearly anything. And I think one of the reasons is I never got bored.
Yeah.
Like boredom's a big part for me, because when you feel that intensely passionate about something, and then you've got to go through the motions. Anything you do, eventually that initial excitement passes and you go through the motions. When I get bored like that, I'm like, oh, I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah.
See you later. Like, and I don't know where that stems from. That, you know, it might come because my dad jumped between everything that he did, trying to find the best way, or it might just be some people are like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what were you like as a kid? Like, what did you do? A lot of sports and stuff? Did you jump around in any sports there?
Not really. I was quite consistent. My dad put me in judo. Well, I started judo. I was actually the one who instigated it all when I was about. So I suppose this comes back to how we got into sport and fitness and all of this. I just started judo when I was probably 8.
Right.
And then my brother started and my sister started. Then my dad started. Now, when I talk about feeling stuff intently and getting very into it, my dad is 10x. Like, he's way more into things than I am, and it became overbearing. I hated judo growing up. Right. I wanted to start. I was the one who pushed for it and everything. And one day I decided I hated it, and one of the main reasons was it was very uncomfortable. You know, like you've been in roles, they're not comfortable positions when you're losing. And
they're not great.
As a kid, and I was a big kid. Like, you know, when I was 10, I was the size of a 13-year-old. Like, so I'd have to fight against 13-year-olds because they were roughly my same size. Yeah. But the strength difference between a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old is huge. You know, and it carries that way all the way through your childhood. And I would get beat all the time. I probably sucked as well. Like, you know. And I hated it. I hated it so much. Then my dad joined it and became real intense. My brother and my sister were very good. They made it. I always thought it was South African nationals. Turns out it was varsity nationals, which is just university level.
That's right up there, though.
But it's right up there, yeah. I think my brother made it to the finals. He might have won it. My sister, I think, won it. I never made it past provincial level. But you know, my dad was into this. He was big into it, and we had a series of coaches, and they sucked. They were awful people.
Right.
You know, like bullies were common. Like I think I don't know if you've done any other martial arts before.
I did a bit of MMA,
but
a few years ago, but
yeah, juniors gym is unique in the fact that everyone's cool. Like there's not a single person there I'd be like, oh, you know, whatever, I'd cross the street if I saw and wouldn't want to talk to him. But there's not a single person there like that. And that is unique. In fact, you normally find the opposite in a lot of gyms I've been to. And it's because the coaches encourage that behavior. They encourage that bullying. So you get the toughest.
The toughness, yeah.
Yeah. And clearly by the results that junior gets, the alternative is the better, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we're one gym and we're up there. But yeah, when I did judo as a kid, there were these bullies there, and it just happens to be my school bully, actually, a guy called Jean-Luc Couture. I'll never forget his name. Like, I think he was only a year older than me, and he was there. And what judo became for me was adult sanctioned beating me up, basically. Like, it was encouraged. Yeah, roll with Jean-Luc. Okay, and Jean-Luc beats me up, and then I get beat up for an hour and I go home. Like, and I hated it. I hated it so much, and I wanted to quit. And my dad never let me quit. And I think, in all honesty, that was one of the worst decisions. One of the few decisions that my dad made that were really bad. Because I hated sport after that. I never went back.
So how long did that go on for then? How long did you do judo for?
A number of years, 4 or 5 years maybe.
Right.
I was a teenager when I stopped, or maybe a little bit younger. But yeah, I never looked at it fondly again. I remember we'd have to travel around the country, go and watch my brother and sister fight. It might have happened loads of times. It might have happened once. But, I remember these long drives.
Yeah.
The way I remember my childhood is I don't really know what happened and what didn't. For some reason, like, it wasn't a terrible childhood. It was all right. But I don't remember it clearly. I remember, like, so I could say, we drove around the country following my brother and sister. That could have happened twice.
Right.
But to me, it happened loads. It happened all the time,
Yeah.
I think when you're a kid, you like fix on these certain like big aspects, and you just remember those because no one remembers 16 years, But yeah, so like it was always a big thing to my dad. Oh, I was good at sport, good at something. He had other things that were very important. We had to be intelligent. My dad, as a member of Mensa, my brother was. I don't know about my sister, and that was very important to him. He always went to that. When I was a kid, I always took tests, and I failed them. I sucked at testing. And they made me do this IQ test, and didn't care for it. Wasn't interested. Ballsed it all up. Didn't do that well. So, but, I never tried. I was never interested in it because I never had to. So there was always this like big emphasis on being the best, and I feel like there was this very, you got to be the biggest man in the room. But it was weird because my dad was always very kind to us. Like, he never disciplined us. We weren't disciplined growing up, not in the traditional sense, at least. But yeah, there was always this thing you wanted to be the biggest man in the room, and to me that kind of stuck. That was one of the things I still can't shake. When I walk into a room, I feel like I've got it. Like, if I'm not. And I never feel like I am, which is the irony of it.
Yeah.
But if I'm not, then I feel uncomfortable. And that makes me uncomfortable in most rooms I walk into. That took a long time to get over. Incredibly long time. And it still exists in some ways, but very rarely. As I got older, it got less and less. As I realised that kind of stuff is not very important.
Yeah, yeah. It's not that important. So... Obviously, you said about then you sort of hatred towards judo, and sports in general. So from obviously then being a teenager, when did you come to the UK?
I was 16.
Right. Okay.
2008.
So it rolled in to that. So what made you come up here basically?
Come to the UK?
Yeah.
Yeah. So always wanted to live with my mum. And I fought my dad on it. I fought my dad hard, and one day he said yes, and that was it. The whole process started. I came very close actually to changing my mind just before I moved here. I met a girl.
Right.
I'm glad I didn't change my mind because I never spoke to her again when we moved here. So 16, I never would have anyway.
No.
But yeah, so I moved here just to be with my mum. There was no other goal. Growing up, there was no other goal for me. I had very little interest in anything else other than tuning out and coming to live with my mum. And when I moved here, it wasn't the luxury picnic that I thought it was. But I think one of the things that happened, and South Africans refer to it a lot as the Heathrow injection. When you move to England from South Africa, you put on 20 kilos. Like, it's standard.
Right.
The food here is quite different. The lifestyle is very different. It's not sunny every day. So you're inside a lot of the time. You know, you can't. What do you do inside? You chill. You eat some food.
Yep.
You know.
What was surprising about the food?
Well, the food here.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It's so bad. You know. Like it never ceases to amaze me just how bad British food is. my partner is from Liverpool and she loves gravy. Like she has a passion for gravy more than anyone will ever have a passion for anything in the world.
That's Northerners for you.
Like I've caught her on occasion come to the gravy at the end of the day. It's back in the kitchen. She's drinking it out the pot. Like it happens, you know. But that is peak British flavour right there.
Right.
You know, a plate of yellow is British food.
Yep.
And British people will look at it and be like, this is the most delicious thing I've ever seen in my life. And you know I'm right. Fish and chips, people love it. People love it. It's all the same colour. A fry-up. I will give you guys a fry-up. You know, but the food is bad. But it's all very dense. And the reason it has to be like that is because your climate sucks and this food's not available all year round, so you've got to really fatten up and all of this good stuff, which not really relevant in modern society. But
no, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. So yeah, when I moved here, the food was such a shock because in South Africa we ate good. Like my brother and I joke, neither of us like steak that much because my dad fed us steak every night for months and months and months. We had steak and it was nice steak. It was good, you know, like thick, proper prime cut. Because in South Africa it's cheap. It's dead cheap.
Yeah.
But we dislike it now. And that's what we ate. You know, my dad tried to feed us good. Food was a big focus for my dad. Got to eat this, don't eat this. Yeah.
So in South Africa then, is there a lot less sort of processed stuff knocking about?
No, there's a lot more. It's tough to say with certainty because processed food kind of started falling off out of popularity as I became an adult. Do you know what I mean? Like veganism became a thing and everyone's all into fitness and healthy eating and stuff like that became really popular. But yeah, when I grew up in South Africa, processed food was not a huge part of what I experienced. And when I did, I gorged on it. So yeah, South Africans, we eat, you know, sweet food is a big part of it. Like South Africa's not famed for its healthy people.
Right.
Outside of the Western world, I'd say we probably have one of the unhealthiest, or one of the biggest obesity epidemics outside of the Western world. And so it's not all good healthy food. That's just what I had in South Africa, you know. But even then, you know, I was a big kid. I ate loads of processed food. I ate loads, and every time I got my hands on it, devoured it like no one's business. My mum used to send me pocket money, right? And I think it worked out to be like 20 quid or something a month or whatever it was. But that's like 600 rand, you know, which is, to put it in perspective, like you could get a milk tart, which is it's like an apple pie, but it's like cheesecake nearly. That's 10 rand. You know, you get 60 of them. Like,
okay.
I would blow the lot the day it arrived, just on sweets and junk, and I would eat it all in the same day.
Yeah.
And I can still do that now. And I don't know where I got that binge culture from. Like, that's a very British thing. You know? Yeah.
I think it's the type of food you're eating. I mean, I've done a lot of sort of, you know, research and stuff into it, and it's something because of the ultra processed, because it gets into your blood. Obviously, the sugars, the thing. It's almost like crack for your body. So then it craves it more. So then you like obviously keep doing it, and then when you're not, because I have it, like I go off piste. Like I'll have a week and I'll just fucking eat whatever, and I can feel it like the morning after if I have like, you know, donuts, cookies, and all that sort of like, you know, sitting in front of the TV sort of, you know, food snacky stuff. And in the morning, I'm absolutely starving because I've not had that like filling from obviously the meat that I have, because most of my diet is meat and veg. Yeah. So yeah, when I do, I feel like obviously I can look in the pack of the cookies and it's like 600 calories for 4 cookies.
Yeah.
So I smashed it. And you look at the calorie amount, and I'm like, fuck me, I've just smashed 3,000 calories. But then by sort of 5 o'clock, 6. Obviously, I'm up early. 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm starving. I'm like, I want something. Whereas if I stick to my diet, I can get to 8, 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm still not feeling that just complete emptiness. And I think that's where it comes from. It's that that somehow they manage to cram all these calories into this food, but it just doesn't satiate you.
So, I got into really looking into what food does to you as a thing quite a few years ago. And fun fact, I suppose, is sugar is hugely more addictive than cocaine. And it just seems surreal to me. And they did a study on the brain and what it activates and the addiction centers and all that. And sugar just blows anything out the water.
Dopamine hit is off the charts.
And the mad thing to me is we give it to kids. I smoked as a kid, right? And I remember my dad never smoked as growing up, and he told me it couldn't have been that long ago, 10 years maybe, 5 years ago. He said, I tried a cigarette, and he said all I wanted for a few days after was a cigarette. And I thought, shit, do you know what? That is what wanting a cigarette is like. You just want a cigarette. There's no reason for it. You know it tastes like shit. You know you don't want it, but you want one. Yeah, there ain't nothing good about it, but nothing beats that. That smoke.
Yeah.
So as an adult, he said he found it really tough. And I think my dad's quite headstrong in some ways. And as a kid, it's impossible. As a kid, when I started smoking, that was it. I smoked for a decade.
Yeah.
And I think I spoke to my dad recently, because when I lost all the weight, I got very interested in why am I like this? Because I see it as an addiction, the way I eat food. And once you're an addict, you're always an addict for the rest of your life. Doesn't matter how long you don't have it for. You fall off the wagon once, that's it, Yeah. And there is a bit more leeway with food than there is with, I don't know, drink or drugs or whatever the case is. But, so I became very interested into why I'm like that. And my dad's he's a very intelligent man. He thinks things through very carefully. But he also has an opinion, and he likes to reinforce his own opinion in a lot of ways. So I asked him, why do you think I'm like this? And I expected and he said, let me go away and think about it, which is the best answer you could ever get when you ask anyone a question.
Yeah.
Because the answer you're getting back at the end of it is genuine and well thought out.
Thought out, yeah.
And he came back and he said, I've got 4 parts, 3 parts, I can't remember. And we'll go through the first one. And the first one, we went on about how the world is designed. The world is designed to feed you junk food. Everything. You walk through a shopping center, an Asda or whatever. You look at the products on the wall. Does the fresh fruit look better than the packets of sweets? Do you know what I mean? What catches your eye more? What shines? What glistens? We have to make laws. There's rules about where you can store sweets and how you're allowed to package them and where you're allowed to see them, because otherwise, breakfast cereals would just line the walls and that's all we'd eat.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Idiocracy?
Oh, I haven't, no.
So they Gatorade has all the electrolytes someone needs. And this guy goes, I don't know, how many 100 years into the future or whatever it is. And he wakes up and he's the smartest man in the world. He's just an average dude. I think he's delivered pizzas or whatever. And they can't fathom how intelligent this dude is. Their prison system, they walk in and they're checking everyone in. And he's like, oh, I'm meant to be in that queue checking out. And they're like, oh, all right, jump in the queue then. And he's broken out of prison like that. And he goes through, and the whole world is just based like that. And one of the things is all their plants are dying. They can't work out why. No one can work out that the nation's going to starve. And it's because they're watering their plants with Gatorade, because it has all the electrolytes a growing person needs.
Right.
Which in reality it doesn't. It's just sugar and juice.
Yeah.
It just has a bit of salt in it, so you can drink more of it than water. But the whole world, everything, every sweet, every chocolate, every processed food is designed to make you feel hungry, so you eat more. And as a kid, I loved sweets and everything. That's why I don't give my kids sweets. I know it's passing your insecurities down, but I make sure that my kids don't have sweets at every opportunity that I can. And I think we're quite successful at it. My partner's on board with this. All our family members appear to be on board with it so far. Because I'm so terrified that they'll get the sweet tooth that I have. And I think that's where it started is, once you go down this road of the world's designed like this, who are you to fight against the world? You're not going to win.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm a bit like that, like with the kids and stuff. Like I don't eat that many sweets at all, really. And obviously, Caitlin, she comes jiu-jitsu with us now, and she's 13, so she understands now, what you put in your body, how it affects and fuels you. And she's obviously seen me go from, 18 stone, which is 112 kilograms, I think I was, something like my heaviest. Down to now 93, completely, my body's completely changed. I can run and, move now. I was just sort of just lays on the sofa, really. And so she's seen me go from, what I was eating to what I am now eating, and how that's changed me and how I've become better. Really, like my body performs better. So I don't say they can't have it, but I say to him, like my lad, he will crush baby cucumbers over sweets. All the time
proper,
now.
yeah.
Like he will like he had them today. He was like, Dad, as soon as we walked in Aldi, can I get some baby cucumbers? Like he will smash them all day long. And that's because I say to it, like, you can pick whatever snack you want to have, and now he just has naturally gone to that because he sees, Dad eats healthier food. Dad feels better. He runs around, does all this with me now, whereas he used to eat this junk and he didn't. And it's the same with Caitlin. Like, she's dropped a dress size since we've been doing jiu-jitsu. Like, she's stopped doing netball now so she can do more jiu-jitsu. Like, and she's loving it. And it's the same with her. Like, she's noticing how she performs better if she has a good dinner rather than, chicken nuggets or whatever. Do you know what I mean? She can see her performance and how she's getting more fatigued quicker and all the rest of it like that. So, but yeah, I understand what you're saying with that. Like, it's something with me. When I stopped, I was like, I'm not going to have sweets in here. And I was like, just because I'm not having it, feel harsh for the kids. And, when like she has her mates round or anything like that, they're going to be like, okay, Dad's fucking oddball. Yeah. He ain't got nothing in the cupboards. You know what I mean? He's only got meat and vegetables. But no, I understand what you're saying with that.
Yeah. So like this whole massive push for everyone to eat shit food, basically. I suppose going back to how did I end up like I was? I think a combination of everything we've spoken about so far, the heightened emotion, the intensity of how I feel things, the greatness you feel when you chow down on some sugar. And I think one thing that was quite strange is I got access to money when I was a kid at intervals. So when I got money, I spent it all at once. And I would always buy shit food. Then I turned into an adult. And that didn't change. I got my first paycheck. I blew the whole thing in a weekend. I wasn't meant to. I had to borrow money from my mum for the train ticket for the next month. Like, but yeah, I blew it all in a weekend. To be fair, I went down the pub and spent most of it. But I was 18, 19. So that never changed. I got a little bit better with it, but still now, if I go to the shop and I'm like, I'm going to get something nice, I'll walk out with 40 quid's worth of just junk food, and I'll eat it all in the night because I can't have it the next day. Otherwise it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
But then what ended up happening was when I moved here, I put on some weight. I got quite big and I went, I've got to find a sport. Right. So I went and found, I looked for a judo club because it's the only sport I'd ever done. Played rugby in school, but it's because everyone plays rugby. Our choice was rugby or detention.
Right.
So, I played rugby briefly in school. But yeah, judo. So I went and found a judo club. I couldn't find one. Closest I found was Shoot Fighters in Kettering.
Right.
I don't know if they're still about.
No.
I know most of the guys are, but yeah. And that kind of got me into MMA slightly. So I went and found myself a girlfriend in Kettering because I lived the other side of Rushden. And I had a reason to go to Kettering every day. So I went to Kettering every day, did some training, saw my girlfriend, and that was it. And then after a while, I split up with a girl. no longer had a reason to go to Kettering. And it just so happened I found an MMA club in Rushden, which was the closest town to me. It's where I went to school. And I had a great coach there, a guy called Adam. And he was like a big part of my life when I moved here, because there was no like major male role model. Yeah, my stepdad's a great guy, he's all of that, but he worked long hours. I hardly ever saw him. Saw him in the evenings. Amazing guy. We get on so well. I cannot praise him enough for anything. But I spent a lot of time with Adam, and he drove me places. He helped me out with things. He was, very much a father figure to me when I moved here, and he was healthy. It's the first time I'd seen someone who was quite balanced and healthy, and everything was quite well. And I got incredibly healthy when I did that. I ended up meeting a guy who wanted to do his doing his degree in sports nutrition and that sort of thing. He needed someone to try it out on.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll volunteer. I was someone who could train every morning, every afternoon, and he did. And I became, relatively. I probably got to looking similar to how I am now, a little bit smaller maybe. And it was just great. I ate strict, I ate clean, I trained hard. I had a new girlfriend at the time, so I go after school, see her, go to the gym, run home. It was 4 miles, 5 miles home. I'd run home every day. I fought, I won some, I lost some, Then I moved to uni. And when I went to uni, I said, I'm still going to fight. So I went to fight gym out there, Oxford MMA. And I never went, never turned up, not once. And I was meant to take this fight. I was meant to do Battle Arena 6 or 7, whichever it was. I did 1, 3, and 5. I was meant to do the next one. And then I eventually pulled out of the fight because all I did was drink and eat. When I went to uni, I didn't train not once.
Yeah.
And it turns out as soon as I'd removed that positive figure from my life, I no longer had someone I wanted to impress. And I just stopped doing it all.
Yeah.
Just stopped everything. And I got bigger. I never got massively unhealthy. I got quite bad. I drank a lot. I enjoyed my parties in uni. I partied real hard for the whole 9 months I was there. Attended 2 lectures. Right. It was very much spring break for me.
Yeah.
And it was just a generally fun time, I suppose. Then I started working, and I worked in London. Lunch out every day, that sort of thing. And just never got back to training. Never got back into MMA. I had opportunities to go and do MMA quite well. I had a guy called Warren, I think his name was, and he would he said to me, you got some skills in this. You can train real hard. You can come train with us every day, type thing. And I said to my coach, do I go to uni or do I train? Do I take a shot at this? He said, go to uni. The gym will always be here when you come back. Uni won't always have that opportunity. Went to uni, came back, gym had closed down. So it was when I came back, and then I moved to London, I started working around, I started doing all that. And I never really spoke to our coach again. Nothing ever happened. We still, if he sees a post on Facebook, he likes all my jiu-jitsu posts, or some of them at least. We just never stayed in touch. And I think then I started slowly falling off the rails with my eating, my health. I was drinking a lot. And as I got more and more unhealthier, I thought, and I've always known I've got to do something about it. And I've known what to do is the big thing. Yep. So I've always been very interested in fitness, very interested in what do I need to eat, what do I need to do, all of this. And I could never stick at it. Just didn't care enough. Just never had a reason to. And I think as I went on and on, my life was very interesting over those 10 years, but, not for this story at least. I just went in and out of different phases, binging on different things, and got a message from my dad basically saying, it wasn't a message, it was a call. And he said, listen, tell me, I remember it actually. He said, listen, tell me, are you just getting fatter and fatter? And I went, what? And he's like, yeah, is that what you're doing? You're just going to get fat now? Something along those lines. And then he sent me this course, right, on Banting, which is just keto diet. But it was like a very early version of it. And I went out of my way. My goal was to prove him wrong. I'm going to eat the way that you were saying, because I don't have to count calories. I don't have to follow how much I eat. It doesn't matter. As long as I eat these foods, I'll be good. And it was fats and proteins, and that was it. No carbohydrates. So, pack of bacon, 6 eggs, a whole chicken, like every day. Every day, that's what I ate. And the weight fell off me. I built muscle. I got strong. I hardly slept. I slept like 4 or 5 hours a night. And I felt good. I felt real good. I didn't even eat that many vegetables, to be honest. Like, I ate the foods that I was told that you could eat, and I didn't eat the ones I didn't like. I don't like vegetables. And yeah, my goal was to prove this wrong, and it just worked and worked and worked and worked. Until I became one of those people who, if you weren't on keto, obviously you're missing out, and I've got to tell you all about it. And like, it became to the point, I became very elitist about it. A friend of mine who was, or is actually, like, possibly the biggest influence in my life, I'd say. My dad came to visit. It's the first time I'd seen my dad since I moved across. My dad came to visit, and my friend came with me. And my dad fed us keto for that weekend. And when he left, so he had to go, he said to me, he's like, wow, I feel really good. I feel healthy. And we both got on the keto train, and we ate like that. We lived together at the time, and we just cooked up feasts all the time, massive meals. We had mystery meat curry night, which was truly an adventure. Posh Cambridge student curry was just tuna and Thai curry, but we ate it, and we ate good, and we just felt better and looked better and worked harder, worked longer. And then I met my partner and started, I had a bit of money in my pocket. I was working, I was doing well. So we started going out more often. We ate out quite a lot, and I was never the money side of it, but we lived that lifestyle, and as we went out more, I always thought, I'll have a treat this time. Because we're going out. And eventually, after so many times, it's no longer a treat. It's just the way you eat.
Yeah.
Coming off keto was never intentional. That was an accident. But getting back on it was something I tried over and over and over again. Problem with eating keto, and especially eating it the way I ate, is it works great if you do it. It doesn't work at all. It's detrimental if you don't do it. So I'd eat huge plates of meat, huge amounts of food, and then go and devour a pack of chocolate, and that's just eating a lot. That's not eating with a purpose. And then I got bigger and bigger, and life kind of went on. But I think the beginning of everything changing, so that the purpose of the story I want to tell, all starts roughly here. I opened up my own business probably 6 years ago. It must be 6 years ago now. Opened a vape and coffee shop in Wellingborough. It was really good. It worked. Opened it up on a shoestring. Borrowed all the money. 25 grand I did it with. Set up massive vape shop. It competed with the biggest in the area. And we competed hard. Like, they got real upset about us. And that made me real happy. Yeah. They threatened to sue us. They threatened everything. Just for nothing. For absolutely nothing. Never had a leg to stand on, so it never happened. But they'd like send people around and be like, oh, listen, like customers. Like they're going to take legal action if you don't stop selling this specific brand. I'm like, I don't care. Like, why would I care? Good. I hope they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the business was doing quite well, but I knew nothing about finance, nothing about admin, nothing about keeping records or anything like that. So while we turned over enough to have to pay VAT, I spent it all as quickly as it came in. And it was on growing the business. We went from a range of like 20 products to nearly 200 less than a year. We had a coffee shop as well. That became like, we had so many different people from the community coming in, of all sorts, and it was always what I wanted it to be. And then as that happened, I still ate healthy at the start, an omelette every morning. Took the dog for a walk every morning. Everything was great. I got my dog while I opened the shop. He came every morning with me to work, and he spent all day. We got him on the Sunday. On the Monday, he was in the shop. People loved him. People came to see him. It was great. Like, everything was going well. And then I realized that you have to keep records. You can't just pay someone to do it for you. And the person I paid, she didn't do a very good job. So when I stopped paying her, I got handed a plastic bag full of all my admin work. So that kind of like, when I had to then go and deal with it, because the business had started going downhill. When I had to deal with that, I had no idea what I was doing. And we ended up folding. Just because the high street went down, I made some bad choices of where to put it. But in all honesty, if I just kept the records right, we probably would have been really successful. So that happened. But as that started, I worked 12 hours a day in that shop. Next door was a little corner shop, and he sold chocolates and samosas and that sort of thing. And that's what I started eating. And when that happened, I started putting on weight. And I refuse to admit it when I start putting on weight. I'm very much like, no, it's not happening. I'm going to lose it in a sec. So I refuse to buy new clothes until I have to. And I go through this window, this period where I just look awful. I look like someone who gave up. And, if I just bought some new clothes, I'll be all right. I look like a normal person. But I look at pictures of myself then, and all my clothes are too small for me. It's because I refuse to accept it.
Yep.
And, and then like my partner moved in with me towards the end of the shop. I finally made the decision to close it down. The debts of the business had racked up, and I went, shit, I didn't make it. I didn't do this right. That's always been my dream since growing up, to be a business owner. And I kind of went, well, this is it. I have to do the next thing. I can't give up now. So I borrowed some more money and set up my own juice range, my own distribution line, all of that. And I drove around the country trying to sell it to vape shops. My biggest weakness, if I was to say I have a weakness in business, is sales. I cannot sell anything. I can talk to one person and I can have, a captive audience. Yes, I can tell them how things work and I can explain things very well, but I cannot convince someone who does not want it. And that's not a skill in modern business. As I become more and more aware of it, it's not a skill that modern businesses need. But this destroyed me. It destroyed my confidence, my faith in myself. I've always valued myself as someone quite intelligent because I've always been told I'm quite intelligent. I did not feel that way anymore. I went, obviously everything I did was wrong. Everything I'd ever done in my life was wrong. And this is it. So I just went and I ate. I went out, my relationship was tough. I drank a fair bit, not like to a problem. Like I went out, and when I went out hard. But yeah, I wasn't in it anymore. I'd given up. I was on the edge. I was like, this is it. I'm just a drain. I'm a drain on everyone. I remember my mum was sending me money to help with the rent. And I was living with my partner. I just asked her to move in with me. She had moved down here for this. And I'm like, you've moved down here. And I'm like, this is the worst decision you could have possibly made. Like, I don't make good decisions, and I wouldn't have even made that one. And for all the difficulties we had, understandably through the time, she was always there. So I'll always give her that. But yeah, I was I was out. That was it. I was game over. I didn't know what to do. I felt like a drain. And I was. And I just knew I couldn't stop. I had to do something because otherwise people would have worked out that I'd, failed.
Yeah.
And it was no secret to anyone. Everyone knew. I just didn't want them to know that I knew they knew. And I was so upset. I didn't know what to do with myself. So I carried on eating, carried on just working. And a friend of mine, and he has been the person I would say is, I think what's important in the world is to know that when things go wrong, that you're not alone. It doesn't matter how bad they get, someone will always be there. That's not to say, can I go around, I don't know, murdering people? And he'll be like, yeah, don't worry, mate, you're all right. But no matter how badly you fuck up, someone will always be there. And I feel incredibly fortunate to have someone like that. That was a friend I described earlier, the one I lived with. His name's Carl. He was always there, always, and it didn't matter what happened. We were always, there was always someone there. And I'd say if it wasn't for him, I don't know how I would have done anything. I don't know. And he would never, I don't think he would be like, yeah, I was there all the time, I think he'd always, and he has on occasion always said, I wish I'd done more. And I said, there's no more I could ever ask for. And I think that changed my life. That was the ability. So, point being, he is an accountant. And I went, well, he's smart. He knows what's going on. I'll be an accountant too. So I picked up the books, read all the books, passed my exams, first 4 exams, got my certificate. And he employed me. He said, look, got a job for you. Gave me a job.
And at this point then, what sort of weight are we weighing
so
in at now?
We're looking at like probably 125, 120, 130.
Big boy then.
Yeah, it was big boy. Yeah,
big boy.
I was never small, And then I started working with Carl, and we worked in Dunstable. We drove to Dunstable. I worked only part time at the time, so we drove up 2 hours there, 2 hours back. It's a 12-hour day every day, minimum. And it was great. It was cool. I worked with my best mate. We did cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I was real happy about it. But I just, I carried on eating. I kind of plateaued there with my food. But I was terrible. I wasn't bankrupt. I was just owing a lot of people a lot of money. And eventually, the dates always miss me. I can never remember exactly when, but I think it was February 2020. My partner actually paid for me to go bankrupt, and that was it. Like, I knew that was coming. I knew that's what I had to do, but it costs about 900 quid. So in order to go bankrupt, you have to have money.
Yeah.
I owed people probably 60, 70,000 pounds all in. Debt from the startup, the rent, all of this and that. A couple of loans there to keep the shop going. And so I declared bankruptcy, and I worked for my friend. It seems an ironic role to take as an accountant when you failed at keeping records, but I think it was the perfect role, because what better skill to learn than the one you don't have? So I just worked there. I declared bankruptcy, and this was it. Now I was the bottom. So
as they say,
yeah,
when you're at the very bottom, the only way is up.
Well, I pushed real hard down, So I went to carried on, putting on a little bit of weight, getting a little bit bigger, but not that much. Then my son was born, my first kid, in September 2020. Right. I know it sounds bad, but no, keep it all in. Like, so I've got 2 kids now.
Yep.
One was born in July, and the other in September. And for some reason I confuse them, the two months, and there's no reason to, because I always know my oldest is born in September, because he'll always be the oldest in his year.
Yep.
And I was very happy about that, because it means he's going to be the smartest. Like, you're just a little bit more developed. You get that little bit of head start, you know. It does mean you start school a year later and you finish a year later than everyone else. But, you know, like, swings and roundabouts, I suppose. But I always remember that. It doesn't bother me if he's not. But, yeah. And, yeah, so he was born in September. And everyone always talks about, I don't know if you experience this, but I know others do. When you have your kid, your life changes. Your world changes. Everything. The second you meet that child, you feel an undying love that you'll never experience ever, and you could never explain to anyone else. Yeah. I never felt that. Right. I always wanted to be a dad. It's always something I've always wanted. And I felt love, you know, I felt care and loved my kid and all of this and that. But it wasn't just like, wow, bam, moment that everyone experiences. That took time. You know, that relationship developed over time. And now, like, there is nothing, no one in the world who I could say ever feels as deeply as I feel for my kid. And obviously there is, you know, everyone loves their kids. Yeah. But I could say that, I say it with confidence. It didn't take long to develop that, but it came. And everyone always says, is that the moment it all changed for you? And it never was. It never was, because there wasn't that instant wham moment. Yeah. In September the 8th, 21, or go back 2 months, July 30th, I got my motorbike license. I went straight for it. This is it. I'm going for big boy bike. Skip my 125. I rode my 125 for a couple of years before, like years ago. I'm going straight for a big boy bike now. And I got it. September the 8th, July 30th, I got the license. September the 8th, I plowed my bike into the side of someone's car. Came off, and I lay on the ground. It was the A45 M1 junction, where there was a building site there. The guy was pulling into the site. I went to undertake, for whatever reason, I wasn't even thinking. I was just on my way to work. I was whistling. You can hear me singing on the camera as the footage goes on. And I hit the side of his car, and I lay there. And I remember lying there and just thinking, I might not walk. I don't know what's wrong. I know I mustn't move. I'd already pulled my helmet off. I knew that was a big no-no. But I took that off straight away. And I thought, I might never walk again. And I don't know why that crossed my leg. My legs weren't injured. Didn't even hurt. And I just remember the site nurse came out, and she was just sitting there. She had my head in her lap, and she was just sitting there. And I don't cry. I don't cry often. I don't cry when I get scared. That's for sure. I wish I cried more. I always do. But I remember sitting there and just looking at her, like not moving, because I know moving's a bad choice right now. And I just remember her wiping a tear off my cheek, and I can't remember what I said to her, but I remember thinking, like, shit, like, how bad is it? How bad are things? And because you can't check, you can't get up and check. You just lie there staring at the sky. An ambulance took a while to arrive. They rang up. They said, oh, they'd be a couple of hours. Like, you know, it's a priority 1 case. It's a problem now if ambulance taking an hour to come to an emergency. Like, but I lay there, and they took me to the hospital, and I lay in the stretcher. And I lay there all morning. I could not move, could not look anywhere. And all I could think of is, what if I could never play with my kids? The irony is, I couldn't really play with them before. I then pretty much reached as big as I was going to get. I must have been 150 by this time. And we'd go to soft plays. My boy wasn't even 1, and he'd outrun me. You know, he could climb up things. I couldn't get him. If something went wrong, I couldn't get him. And that never bothered me until it suddenly became a reality that I might never be able to. And I went, shit. Like, I never bargained. I never said, oh, if I can walk after this, I'll do this. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
You know, I never did none of that. I'm not religious. I'm not anything like that. I just went, shit, this is a problem. Before this, I'd gone gym a couple of times. My friend Carl kind of got me into it. That put an end to the gym pretty quickly. You know, he was the one they rang. They rang Lauren, my partner. I don't know who answered the phone, but at the hospital they were both there. And yeah, he's been changed to my emergency contact since then. But I sat there and I went, you know, like, something's got to change. And as I started getting better, went to the physio. So this happened in September 21. I just went, fine, I'll get better. I couldn't pick up my kid. Couldn't pick him up at all on his first birthday. Like that was a shitty time. And once again, I'd gone from being slowly picking myself up to being a burden on people again. Yeah. So I ate. You know, the medication doesn't help. I was just painkillers, zonked out on the sofa for weeks. Then I went to the physio, and as I started getting better, instead of like doing the bands, I asked the physio every time, can I go to the gym? Can I go to the gym? Can I please go to the gym? And eventually he said yes. He said, go to the gym, do what you want. I don't care what you do. Physio was ruthless, man. Like, he came to me on the first day and he's like, look, I'm going to do something to your back. It's either going to fix you or proper fuck you up. It didn't fix me. But it hurt. And I just got better. I just started getting better. And I went, well, I don't need to stop where I can move. I can just carry on getting better. And I just carried on getting better. When I started going to the gym, like, that was it. I want to squat 100 kilos. I got the video somewhere of the first time I did it. Now it's a starting weight. If I miss the gym for a few weeks, I'll be like, all right, let's start with 100. And I went, just carried on getting better. Just carry on getting better. But I carried on getting fatter for some reason. I could not work out why. I was training hard. I was doing everything. But I was eating. I was eating so much. I'd go and buy, you know, those little carrot cakes you can get.
Yeah.
I'd pick one of them up for dinner, man. Like a couple of Ben and Jerry's to accompany it. Like, I was eating good.
Right.
And, yeah, I just got fatter and fatter. And then I started jiu-jitsu. And when I started jiu-jitsu, I didn't mention this part of it when I started, but I was getting tests done on my liver. And that was the scariest bit. I'd just come out of this motorbike accident, just healed myself and gone through the physio, and now I can move around a little bit. Yeah. And now the doctor wants to see me because my liver's in so much pain. Like, I can hardly move. And they're running tests. Oh, I've got high, this, and this. A stupid thing of Googling what does high LTL or something, HDL, whatever it is.
LDL and HDL.
That's it.
It's the LDL, yeah.
What does it mean if it's high? And it was like high. I feel like it's meant to be in single digits, and it was like 80s or something along those lines. And obviously, if you Google anything, like, you're real sick. And I'm like, shit, I'm going to die. So I went to jiu-jitsu and I was in so much pain. Anyone touched my ribs, that was it. Like, and I just went, it doesn't matter if it hurts. The doctor said, you're not going to get hurt. Just carry on doing what you're doing. Do some exercise. I think he meant, you know, some light walking. And but I chose jiu-jitsu. And as long as I carried on turning up, that's all I thought. As long as I carry on turning up, there's no way I can do this much exercise and stay fat.
What made you choose jiu-jitsu, though?
Because I'd done judo before. That was it. There was nothing else. I could have picked any sport. I hate running. I cannot run. Yeah. I don't like running. I envy people who like it, because how simple would it be if my sport was running?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just picked jiu-jitsu because I'd known it. You know, I'd known vaguely what it was about. Junior's gym looked great. Messaged him. It's really helpful. I was like, oh, well, it costs a lot of money. And then I thought about it and I went, that doesn't cost any money at all. You know, went, tried once, and that was it. I said to Lauren, I've got to go. This is my gym now. I'd go every day if I could, and I did. I went 4 times a week, every single morning session, twice on Thursdays. And I was just in so much pain. And I never wanted to say anything. I didn't want people to slow down. and the pain slowly went away. But it would be times like I struggle to get up. I'd be like in so much pain I can't move. And then I just do it. I just get out of bed. I didn't want to tell anyone about it. I mentioned it to my partner. I mentioned it to my friend Carl. And he looked up the same as I did. Googled it, and he's like, you know what it means? And I'm like, yeah, I know what it means. Don't worry about it. Like, so I just carried on going to jiu-jitsu, and then Junior came to me and he said, look, I do weight loss as well. Do diets and stuff like that. And I thought in my head, like, I know what I'm doing with my diet. I did keto. I kept trying to go back to keto. It never worked. Still plowed through those cakes, plowed through it hard. And so eventually I said to Junior, like, yeah, let's go. And he did the diet plan for me. And in my head, what I'd done is I'd removed that choice. I had to think about my food every single day, and I had to decide what to eat. And every day I made the wrong choice.
Right.
But I gave someone some money, someone who looks like I want to look, and I said, make the choice for me. And he did. And he made the right one because he's an expert. He's a professional in his field. Now,
well, and look at him.
And look at him, like, I just ate. What it said on the paper, I ate. Yeah. I didn't need anything else. And I felt good. I trained hard. I carried on. And it fell off. It fell off like butter. And sometimes I'm tempted, like, the only thing I regret more, I took one before picture. I wish I'd done all the videos. Yeah. Like you see those transformations online, they're doing the big, like, turn around and this is my life and this is what... I hardly took any pictures of me at the time because I hated pictures of myself. I still hate pictures of myself.
Mine's similar. Yeah. Mine's similar. My pictures, I've got loads now because of obviously where I've come from. But yeah, my pictures, very sort of like family gathering. It's like family. It's not like a posing, like arms up, doing the spins and all that, which, I'm with you on that. I wish I had of, because now I like getting in the mirror and I look and I'm like, I wish I had a fat version of me doing this, and then I could transition it to not being fat. But I'm with you on that.
So I just followed through with that, and there was a changing point in my life at this point. It wasn't only the weight loss. I made the decision. So when my daughter was born, it's the day I started the weight loss. I started my diet July 24th, roughly. And I remember it because I remember her being born and me eating chicken and pasta. Like, we were celebrating. I'm like, no, I'm eating my chicken and pasta. And it was one of the first weeks, so it was so easy to fall off that wagon and all of that. But a handful of things changed around that time. I changed jobs. And when I changed jobs, being intelligent was always very important to me. But I never thought I was that smart. So my family's always been like, my dad's always been big into this whole Mensa thing. Like, do you know what Mensa?
Mensa. Yeah, my grandma's in Mensa.
Yeah.
Or is in Mensa.
So I went and took the test. And it turns out, like, I don't just make it in. I make it in by quite a considerable margin. Like, it turns out like 0.4% or 0.25% or something is the bracket I fall into. And I thought, nah, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
And obviously IQ and being smart are two completely different things. One is you can solve puzzles relatively easily and learn things quite quickly. The other is a lifetime of experience in whatever you do and being able to apply it. I don't think the two are related in any way. But what did happen after that is I'd never thought I could learn things quickly. And I have an affinity for learning. I went and picked up a book, I read a book, wrote an exam, and I passed it. I've done that nearly 12 times now in a row. Like, I'll pick up a book on Monday and write the exam on Sunday, for example. I'll pick it up on Friday and write it the next Friday. And I'll pass an exam that's meant to take 3 months. And this is where I come back to, I feel lucky. Like, I feel like, I just got the easy questions. And I'm not passing with massive margins. I'm just passing. I'm getting through. But I found out that I have this affinity for learning. You know, at the same time I'm studying programming. I nearly doubled my salary at that time. Like, it was weird. Passing the test changed nothing. Changed absolutely nothing. But for some reason, everything else changed after that. And I think that's where I started to find my confidence. So learning jiu-jitsu, like, I feel like I've taken to it quite quickly. Obviously I've got some past experience, but when I say it's a little bit here, a little bit there, it's a little bit here, a little bit there. I feel like I've taken to it quite quickly. But to me, I'm still doing things very slowly. And so everything's kind of changing around me, and I'm not used to what's going on yet. I don't know about you. So you lost quite a bit of weight as well. At what point did you realize you lost the weight? Not what everyone else told you. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mine was just because of how my body shape changed. Like, I went from drinking nearly every day, like at least a bottle of Bud, usually 3 or 4, especially during like lockdown and stuff like that. That was when I sort of really tanked it on. So I had like a barrel belly. Do you know what I mean? There's no sort of chest to speak of. It just like bomb out, and I've got the stretch marks still on my stomach. But it was when I stopped going like an egg, and it started to that cinched in, and then I could see my lats actually sort of sticking out. That was when I was like, "Oh, hello, we've hit the nail on the head here. We need to keep going this way." And it is like now, like all my lifts every week near enough seem to be going up. I have noticed when I do have my carb binges, my lifts go through the roof. I seem to jump up sort of 10, 15 kilograms, and then I try to maintain that when I'm petering back off being a good boy. But I'm always very aware, like when I am eating crap, that this is just, let's just hit that craving and we're back on it. I'm not too much on the like addiction side of it, like you said about for yourself. But yeah, for me it was that the change of shape in the mirror from a circle essentially to starting to get that triangle going. Yeah.
So I hear things like that. People say, "Oh, I noticed this. I noticed that change in my body," and it blows my mind. I didn't see a single thing like that. I look at myself in the mirror every single morning, every single one. I'll come downstairs because I wake up with the kids, bring them downstairs, pop them on the sofa or play with them, or whatever. Then I'll go and stand in the mirror, and I'll open my dressing gown, and I'll look at every single inch of my body and be like, has something changed? And I can notice it. Like, I can see the top 2 abs now, in their own way. And I'm like, yeah, they're there. And if they ever disappear, it'll blow my mind. I don't know. I couldn't handle that. I'm fixated on that now. Again, to the point of probably unhealthiness.
Yeah. But it's good. You've made, that's what I mean. Like, now your addiction is to stay in shape.
To stay healthy, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the same, like with me. Like I said, I've got these stretch marks on my stomach now, and they're like my go-to. If I wake up in the morning, I'm feeling tired, or like when I finish work, and I'm like, my thing is now, like, going to the gym or doing jiu-jitsu, one of them two, like, they have to be done each day. Otherwise I feel horrendous. And it's always, if I feel tired or I'm just, I just don't want to go today or whatever, I honestly just stand in the mirror, or if there's no mirror around, I'll just lift up my t-shirt, whatever I'm wearing, and just look at them stretch marks and go, "You're going to the gym today."
That's it, yeah.
Because I don't want these stretch marks to get brothers.
That's it.
Do you know what I mean? So that's my motivation every day, is that I never want to look like how I did. I never want to be out of breath just running around the garden with the kids, or even just walking to the park like I was getting out of breath all the time in that. And I've come from, like, in the RAF, I was best in PT. I got the little medal statue and everything to go with it, that I was the fittest in my intake. And then, fast forward a decade and I'm this 18-stone fella that's struggling. I'm getting out of breath all the rest of it, and I'm just like, I can't be living in the past, and that, when I was in the military I was fit, and now that gives me a right to be fat.
Yeah, one of those guys where your glory years are all you talk about for the rest of your life type thing.
I want to be talking about in the future. Like now, obviously, I've got my 2-stripe on my white belt.
Yeah, man.
So now it's like, well, I want my 3rd, I want my 4th. I've got a competition in April that I want, which is on my birthday as well. So I definitely want to do that one and perform well. But it's always looking to the future. And obviously with Caitlin now, she wants to compete. I think it's just before her birthday, actually, March. There's one in London that she wants to do. And it's always, and it's like you were saying when we were talking about coming on here and chatting about this, you said that you're always looking forward, and it would be nice to actually, look back and reminisce on where you've come from, so that you can see and gauge it. And like before we even came on, you said that you don't like talking about yourself and all the rest of it. Well, we're nearly an hour and a half in now. How
about that?
Do you know what I mean? So people, you will surprise yourself with it, but I just don't. Yeah, like you said about the glory, I don't want to be someone that talks about like, when I was younger, I played, football high level, which I did, but now that's a past life. I don't play any football now. I mean, I'll kick about with a boy if he wants to, and all the rest of it. And I'll give him his pointers at 7 years old. Obviously, I'm still a much better footballer than he is.
Just though,
but so we're bringing him on and all the rest of it. But that's that. Especially the football side of my life. That is done now. At 34, there's no big, professional comeback or anything like that. Yeah. So, and jiu-jitsu is something that I want to continue, and it is good for life.
I think one of the coolest things about jiu-jitsu is, like, okay, maybe one day if I keep training hard, we might make it to the World's Masters or whatever. That could happen. But I'll never be world champion. I'm never going to win adults, black belt, whatever. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. And for the first time in my life, I'm okay with that. Do you know what? Like, I'm cool about that. I enjoy where I compete. Yeah. I compete in the Masters category. Everyone's above 30. Beautiful. I've competed at adults a few times. Those guys are animals. Yeah. Like, and it's not because they, younger and fitter and stronger. It's because I go to work every day. I look after 2 kids. I've got a missus. We spend time together. When I was 18, I didn't have to do none of that. I could train twice a day and there was no problem. Yeah. And I think that's the difference between adults and masters. And I enjoy being in masters. I enjoy that level of it. I like it that some of the guys I fight against are on my level. I like it that some of them are better. I like it that some of them are not as good. I think that makes it interesting. And I think having it as a hobby has made it so much more fun than something I have to be the best at. Yeah. And that kind of has made it possible to keep going. I'm just there for fun. I'm just there to see my mates and have a good time. And there's nothing more to it. There's nothing less. Like, and it doesn't need to be more or less. And it's perfect. But I think, like you say, when we came on and we said, what, like, I was nervous. I didn't know what to talk about. I didn't know who'd want to hear my story. I think the biggest thing for me has been the last 3 years. I've changed more in my life than I've changed in the last 27 before that. And the changing factor wasn't having kids. It was them growing up and knowing, what do I want them to be like? And as long as I'm as close to what I want them to be like as I can be, they'll be somewhere close. Yeah. And hopefully better than me. Yeah. And hopefully very quickly better than me, Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'd say. For me, I want to be the man that my daughter, when she gets older, she wants to marry a man that's like her dad. And for my son, I want him to mirror me. Yeah. Like, that's a lot of people say that I'm quite like my dad in my ways and how I am, mannerisms and all the rest of it. And that for me, and I mean for him, like, he listens to every podcast. He tells every Tom, Dick and Harry that he meets, like, my lad's got a podcast, you want to listen to it. And he's trying to get people on all the time and chatting to people. And he is my hero still, like, to this day. He's a solid dad, always been around. He up and down the country with football. Obviously, he came to my first jiu-jitsu event. Like, he just doesn't miss stuff. Like, if he has to move stuff around, that's what it is. If me or my little brother are doing anything, it's like, right, whatever we were doing is bosh. Jack's competing today. This is what we're doing today. And I'm very thankful for that. And with the upbringing that I had, and like I say, he was always there. It's similar with yours, really. That we didn't have loads of money, and I didn't really want for much. I just wanted a pair of football boots and shin pads. So that's about it. But everything we needed, we definitely had, and he went out of his way to make sure that we had that.
No, good. Like I think that's awesome. And I think it's cool to have someone that you can emulate like that. Have the positive sides of it. I think that's one thing, and I never think of it much for me, but I made up the person I wanted to be. I don't feel like there's any person that I look at and go, that's who I want to be like. Oh, I want to be like my dad. You might not like to hear it, but I don't want to be like my dad, and I want my kids to be like me, but in their own way.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like me and my dad, especially our outlooks on life, are astronomically different. But like I say, like the sort of the key things that I think as a man you should hold, up in good thing, like just being around as a dad. Yeah. Like being around for us all the time. Like that's the same with my kids. I would my worst nightmare would be that I would, my kids would get to 18 and when they're in a conversation with someone, like I'd, see mum and dad and they split up, and for them to dad was never around. Like that would crush me. So I'd be like, so I'm there. Like obviously I see Caitlin a lot more now with jiu-jitsu and stuff, but she's she's got a key for here. It's all you come round whenever you like. We've now sorted it with the school, so the bus literally drops off at the end of the road.
Perfect.
So open, and with same with my lad. Like I have them as much as I can. It's the only thing that trumps the podcast, really. Like I'll cancel every plans for the podcast, but if I need to have the kids, then that again trumps it, like in my sort of my priority order. Yeah,
and like I can vibe with that. I think that's cool. I feel similar about jiu-jitsu. I'll always go. There's very little that'll keep me away. It's actually killing me. I've been away at the moment. So, I got a slight infection. So until that's gone, no one can near it.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's nearly already gone, which is great. I'm quite happy about that. So hopefully later this week back in jiu-jitsu. But it's the first time in 18 months since I started that I've not been ill and not been able to go to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And like it kills me. But when I like think about my kids, I go to jiu-jitsu so that I can play with my kids. That's why it's so important to me that I can go, because I remember trying to play with them and trying to chase them and just being out of breath and being sweaty and feeling gross and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when we were talking earlier about when did you notice the change? When did you notice you went from one to the other? Well, I think that's one of the things that I do notice is I ain't sweaty anymore. I play with my kids and I'm not drenched. Like, I just roll around on the floor and throw them in the air and just have a good time, and then go and sit down and eat my dinner. And I'm not doing this all the time. And like it's things like that. And I know I look in the mirror every single morning, and I hope my kids don't pick up on that. They probably will. Appearance is important and all of that, which it's not. But I'm glad that they'll never pick up on the fact that I can't touch my toes or put my own socks on.
Yeah.
Like, and those were all things that were reality to me. When I had to put my socks on, I did this weird rocking backwards and forwards thing, and like it was awful. And I thought, how am I gonna catch my kid if he falls out of bed or something like that? Weird examples you think of things that will never happen in real life, but like you think of them, what would I do in this random situation that's never going to happen? Well, it suddenly becomes very important. And I think that's the factor that changed. But what I did is stop making the decisions for myself and accepted when I didn't know things. I don't know how to eat food. And like, I think when we talk about looking to the future now, so we talked about where it came from, how we got here, and looking to the future. One of the big things I've changed now is I've always ate to lose weight. Always. Anytime I've ate with purpose, it's to lose weight.
Yeah.
And now, one of the things that changed is I had to go eating to gain weight. Or not gain it, but like build muscle. Hypertrophy was the word that was used. And so Junior designed me a plan. I went to see him. And when I started this whole thing, he asked me what I want to look like. What are my goals? What do I want to be? And like my thing has always been, I just want to be a fucking monster, man. Like, you know, I want to be the guy when like I walk in, people are like, shit, that's a big dude.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, so
imposing.
that's it, you know.
Yeah.
Like I've fought dudes and I've walked on the mat and I've looked at them and I've gone, shit, that dude's big. And you can always find them. Like when you do the absolutes, like ironically, I always lose to guys a lot smaller than me. But the guy you always see in the absolute is always the biggest dude. And it's not me anymore, you know. And they never like just big fat dudes. They're always monsters. You saw the guy I fought in Northampton. He was 120 kilos with a six pack. Like, you just don't get that big without being insanely strong. And he was. And when I think about dudes, you know, I was saying earlier about if he had put his foot 2 inches backwards or like that was the guy. That's the guy I always think of now. If like, you know, got a little lucky. But we know it's not. But yeah, so now I've gone to eating to gain weight, gain strength, get stronger. I'm not concerned about how much I weigh anymore. I still am. If I go over 106, I'm like, oh shit, okay, quickly start fasting again. Start, you know. But yeah, so I've gone to eating this thing, gone to Junior, he's given me this plan because he knows my goals. He's known my goals since day one. And I ate his plan. I felt good and I got stronger and I got stronger quick. Like it felt like something else was going on. Like I was putting 10 kilos on every lift, 10 kilos on my deadlift, 10 kilos on my squat every week. And the only reason I wasn't putting on more was because I'm like, no, I'm going to overtrain. I'm going to push too far and I'm going to hurt myself. And so that was happening. And it was just going. And it just never stopped. And it just carried on increasing. I just got stronger and stronger. To the point I was like, I was deadlifting 200 kilos. And I'm like, I know I can put more weight on this. But I'm not going to because this is a ridiculous sum. And then I injured my ribs. I was off training for 6 weeks. And we've kind of taken a step back. And the gain, like the strength gains went down quick. They went up quick and they went down quick. And I think that's kind of indicative of how anything does. If you gain it quick, you can lose it quick, you know. And we're back now, you know, I'm benching 110, like, so happy there. Squatting 120 or 130, whatever it is.
This for reps, is it?
For reps, yeah. Reps. So 5 reps. I do everything for 5 reps.
Yeah.
I don't do any 1 rep max. I don't pump it out for 10. Like I'm not just 5. Everything I do is 5.
Yeah, strength, right in the strength zone.
So yeah, deadlifting 180 again, you know, all for 5 reps, all for 5. If I can do my 4 sets of 5 at that weight, I up the weight now. So I'm increasing it a lot slower.
So do you do all of your sets at the same weight for them 5 reps? So you don't do any increases during your sets?
I do. So say for my bench press, for example, I'll warm up with 60. I'll do 12 reps of each, 2 sets of 12. I'll do maybe 1 set at 100, just to go, okay, we're lifting heavy now. And then I'll do 4 sets at my max.
Right.
So, or whatever I've chosen to do for that day. So it's 110 at the moment, 105 if I'm not feeling too good. But squats are the same. I'll warm up with 60. And that's just to get the mobility going. You know, get my knees warmed up, get the muscle activated, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then I'll whack 120 on the sides, 5 reps of each. The first set's always harder than the second, and the fourth is always harder than the third.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just the way I do it. I don't like increasing the weight as I go on because in my head, I'm like, well, I've used the muscle, it's going to be more tired. I don't want to destroy it. I'm not interested in training to failure because then I can't train tomorrow.
See, I do.
Yeah.
I push my body to the limit every time.
Yeah.
I've seen massive gains in my, like now, like the pec deck I go to the Corby swimming pool. On the pec deck now, that max is at 134. Well, I can do that now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need to find another exercise that hits like that does.
Just got to hit the flies,
but
man.
I know. But I like that because obviously
You
I'm
can
maxing
max
it
it out. Yeah.
And it looks nice. So I'm like, could I put a band round and just have that so it's an extra resistance? But yeah, no, I've always been that. And I train a lot different to a lot of people. Like if I'm working chest, I'll do buys with that because your secondary muscle is tries anyway. So I'm like, well, I'm already depleted them. So I don't want to work them because I can't work them to their max because they're already being used.
See, I do it slightly differently. Now, this I found one article that kind of went, this is a good way to do it. And I went, yeah, cool, that's the way I'm doing it because that's what I wanted to do. I only have about 40 minutes in the gym. I go, so my routine is I don't go on Mondays. I do jiu-jitsu on Mondays. On Tuesdays, I go before morning jiu-jitsu. So I go at 5 on Tuesdays. I've got an hour until jiu-jitsu. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I drop the kids at nursery. They go at 7:30. Nursery opens. Work starts at 8:45. So I've got an hour there to gym, shower, change, get at my desk. Nursery opens at 7:30. They open at 7:40. Like that's when the doors end up flying open and kids get shoved in and there's, and I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those like, all right, bye kids, see you later.
Yeah.
Yeah. If your boy doesn't want to go in, I'll sit outside with him. If I have to miss gym, I miss gym. Like it's, that doesn't matter. On a slightly side note, it's one of my pet peeves when the nursery's like, well, the easiest way to get over them crying when they go is you just put them in and you go because they get over it in seconds. But to me, obviously, my upbringing, I'm like, no. We say goodbye every time.
Yeah.
Every time. And it's probably for the worst. It's probably not the right way to do it.
I don't know. I'm with you on that. I think it probably could create like abandonment issues.
Yeah.
Like if you're just like, oh, buff, dropped and you're gone. Like it's just that you're not worthy of, do you know what I mean?
Exactly,
especially as a kid, you're quite easily influenced.
Work's more important than you. I've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I'm with you on that.
So, but yeah, so I only have a certain amount of time in the gym. And so everything I have to do is quite quick. So when I only do about four different exercises. Well, 4 different sets each time. So I do my main compound. Every time that's the most important. So it's squat, bench press,
deadlift,
rows. No, I do deadlifts slightly different.
Right.
So my 4 exercises are squat, bench press, bent over rows, and shoulder press. So overhead press.
Yeah.
The rows are because I needed something to do my upper back. The deadlift I do after squats. So I do them on the same day, and you'll see why in a sec. So because I only have 40 minutes, I have to destroy the muscle as much as I can. And I don't like training to failure because I'm lazy, right? So what I do is I'll do my compound lift, and I like to lift heavy. I like to feel strong. So the heavier I can lift, the better. And I'm happy with that. Then what I'll do, so I'll do my bench press. So chest is an easy example. I do my bench press. That's an exercise in itself. Then what I'll do is I'll do my dips. So I never used to be able to do dips. So now I love dips because I can add weight to it. I would strap 20 kilos to my waist and I'll do my 5 dips. 4 sets, 20 dips in total. But I'll superset it with push-ups. So the push-ups are substantially easier than a weighted dip or a bench press. But I do the push-ups to failure. So my failure doesn't come from the weight. It comes from then hitting the muscle afterwards with something separate. After that, I'll do triceps. So I'll do bench dips, weighted dips there. So 30 kilos on the bar on my waist. Then I'll do overhead skull crushers, hitting the tricep again until I can't anymore. So it's 10 reps. These are all just because I want to look good now. And then I'll do shoulders because what else am I doing shoulders? There's no real theory behind it except for I know I could lift heavier or just do more reps or just do more sets, but I don't have the time for it. So I do 2 separate exercises of the same muscle to just hit it as much as I can.
Right.
And it's working. It probably won't work for everyone. I do it because I think it's cool.
Yeah. And you've got to fit it into that tight schedule, like you said. You're on a time constraint, so utilising them minutes to hit that muscle as hard as you can for the biggest bang for your buck. That's your priority.
If I had the time, I'd just train like a powerlifter. I'd have 5 minutes between each set.
That's what
I'd
I
lift
do.
so heavy, and I'd just wait. I'd enjoy that. Instagram a little bit in between, like, why not? But I ain't got the time.
Yeah.
So I still have to have like a longer rest. I do a minute and a half rest. And that I do it with the superset so that I can hit the muscle as hard as I can. But I also want to grow them slightly because, like I say, I want to be a monster.
Yeah.
But strength over anything else. Strength is always the most important. So it's 5 reps. And then I do these exercises after. And if I'm running out of time, I'll drop them. Because, well, if I don't get to grow my shoulders this week, well, so be it.
Yeah.
But if I don't get to increase my strength, then...
Yeah.
So that's how I do the training, is trying to really squeeze that in. But I digress. We gone from eating to grow, right? So the training now, if I don't do my training, my food's not going to do anything. I'm just going to get fat.
Yeah.
But if I don't eat the food, well, I'm not training for any reason then. I'm just training to stay the same strength. So when I lost the weight, I put on strength. But I think that's the beginners, everyone puts on strength at the start. Now if I fast, I struggle to keep the strength up. And bearing in mind, like, I'm still benching 100 when I'm not doing that, feeling that strong. And that's just because I'm a big dude. Like, I'm not a small person. And I never will be. Even if I was like at my skinniest I've ever been, I was still 90 something kilos, So yeah, I'll always bench heavy, but, or lift heavy in every sense. But now I'm eating to grow, and that's terrifying to me. That was the scariest part. And I had to eat all this food. I ate all the food, and I'm like, I feel full, feel good. I know there's a lot of food here. Am I going to get fat?
Yeah.
And no, I just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And then I fell off the wagon a little bit. I went out a couple of times. We had a good few meals, and I put on 5 or 6 kilos. So it was like, I just got a little bit heavy. I lost that definition that I had. So if you look at my profile picture on Facebook, like, I'm pretty defined there. But I lost that definition. And I was always teetering on the edge of it. So I went and I started fasting again. I just went on a fast and lose the weight. And Junior said, if you start this, you have to stick at it for so long. You can't just do it for 2 weeks and then go back. You have to stick at it so that the changes this. I said, fine, right, I can do that. Fasted for 2 months. And then I went, I'm going to go back to eating big, but I like the fasting. So now I've got to squeeze 3,500 calories, which is, Julian never gave me the calories. He said, eat this, you'll feel good. I ate that, I felt good. Now I'm like, no, I want to do my own thing. And he's like, look, can your body absorb this much protein in this much time? As long as you eat it, you'll probably be okay. But can you eat that much food in that short period of time? So I did. And now, like, I hoof food down. In the first week, it was grand. The second week, it was grand. And then I missed a meal. I had to sit with it. And I was like, this is quite the meal. 4 burgers and half a kilo of chips. Like, let's go. And I was like, damn, man. Like, how am I going to stick this through? Like, and so I think about my food a lot more now. But I've made my own choice. And I know I've got the safety nets. If it goes wrong, I can just revert back to my original meals. And they work. I know they work. I know I feel good. I know everything's fine. Now I get to eat with my kids. They don't like the burgers, but that's their problem. They'll learn to like it. They'll learn to like it. We'll get some South African in them. Yeah. Like, but yeah, it's like a case of, this is scary, because now I'm testing my intelligence again. So like when my business failed, I'd got things wrong, but now I'm trying it with my health. And what the difference I've done is I've set up backup plans. I've got my 2 meal plans, and I've got that. I'll never delete them. I'll never lose them, because I know they work. Junior gave them to me. He's an expert. Trust him entirely with this. If he told me eat 50 chocolate bars, you'll get strong, I'll be like, fine, all right, let's go. Cadbury's my man. Like, so I've utter faith in him completely, and he's never let me down. So now I want to do my own little thing. But I think the change that I've learned from before is I've got a backup plan now. Yeah. And I think I'll do that going forward with a lot of stuff I do in my life. maybe that's just because I'm getting older and I'm not so gung-ho. But yeah, now I just eat, and I always post my food on Instagram. Yeah, sometimes I forget, but I keep a track of everything. I use MyFitnessPal. It just keeps track of the calories, keeps track of everything. These are numbers I made up off the plan Junior gave me. Like, doing it my own way, I think is really helping me regain a healthy view of food. Maybe this isn't the healthiest way, fasting and then gorging yourself, but it's working for me. I'm quite happy not eating till 4 p.m. Don't bother me at all. But if I ate one thing, if I ate like one segment of an archie or an orange in the morning, that's it. I'll eat for the rest of the day. I can't stop.
Yeah.
But I can quite happily say no all day. So I've decided that this is the way that's working for me right now. And do you know what? I'm losing the inches, my waist. I'm not losing weight. So I'm clearly losing fat, and I'm getting stronger.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy with that. If it ever stops working, I've got my backup plan.
Good. Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's the future. Is I'm going to try and stick with that. You know, the kids see me eating. They see me cooking. Leo and I cook together now. He doesn't like it. He's not allowed to touch a chicken. So, you know, he's like, oh, yeah, we cook together. And he gets all excited. And he stands there and he's like, can I chop things with my knife? And I'm like, no, we've chopped everything. It's all chopped. And he's like, oh, I'm going somewhere else. And he gets all upset about it and goes and sits in the lounge. But I think it's important him seeing me cook, seeing me do things. You know, Lottie, especially, you know, with all this rise of what being a man is and what's important being. I think it's important that my kids see me cook. Yeah. You know, a man can cook. There ain't nothing wrong with that. And no one thinks there is anymore. But there seems to be like this rise of like negative masculinity coming through. What's a man and what's not. And like some people focus on these arbitrary tasks that have nothing to do with masculinity. And I think it's important that my kids see that in me doing normal things that everyone does. Yeah. You know, no, they don't eat the food. They eat their own food, but they'll eventually eat the food when, you know, when I give them, there's 9 times out of 10, there's some for them, unless they've already ate. Tonight they had the same chicken I had. Lauren missed out, so unlucky for her. There wasn't enough chicken breasts in the fridge, but you know, they get the same food and it's always there. The option's always there. It's important that they have that option. And I think that's what the future is trying to develop this healthy relationship. You know, I had a couple of biscuits last night. Blew my mind. I didn't finish the box. Like, absolutely blew my mind. Like, every time I do that, I see that as a massive win. Yeah. Like, Lauren and I have this thing that I don't want any of it in the house. Like, no packs of biscuits, no chocolate bars, nothing in the cupboard, no little nice treats. Because if I have one biscuit out the pack, I eat the whole pack. And I'll eat that whole pack every day, you know. But she bought some home. She went to see her parents. She bought some, like, you know, those Christmas ones that are normally sewing kits. Yeah. Like, she came home with them, but in a plastic bag. So I presume the box is somewhere full of sewing kits. And I only had, like, 3 or 4. I was cool, man. Like, you know. Yeah. And I saw that as a massive win. Like, that was huge to me. That was bigger than losing the weight. That was the biggest thing. Is I didn't
take it and leave it.
Yeah, I could take it and leave it. But I know for a fact if they were still there tomorrow or tonight, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. Let's go. You know. So yeah, like, I think the future is trying to make it. Yeah. And you know, I love the idea of just being able to do more than anyone else. I'll eat more than anyone else ever. And I'll put that to the test. There ain't no winning there. No. What am I achieving? No. But I'll still do it. Like, and I'll make the challenges up in my head. Yeah. So yeah, I think the future is trying to get rid of that. You know, the weight's only one part of the whole story. You know, the other is my career, my trying to be a good father, trying to be all of that. But again, a story as long as the one we just told is behind each of those. So yeah, it's just, where do I go next? You know, and I think this is a big part of my journey. It's a big part of who I'm going to be as someone as I get older, and as I start telling stories, to my kids, is what do I want to tell them about? What do I want them to just be their normal? Like, to me, growing up, having people live in our house, that was just normal.
Yeah.
What do I want to be normal to my kids? And I think that's the bit that I want to change for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Ben. Right, so I ask everyone this question at the end of the podcast, just to get their view on it. So what advice would you give to someone, either at the start of their weight loss journey or jiu-jitsu journey, or just general advice?
I think the biggest thing, and it was the change for me, is before, obviously I'm quite capable in everything that I do, and so I never took anyone's advice because I always knew what to do, and I very rarely was wrong until I was wrong. When I was wrong, I got it very wrong. But and I think the biggest change that I had was I took some of the pressure off myself to make decisions, and I gave those things to professionals. Everyone knows how to eat. You know how to eat healthy. You know how to eat perfectly. And there's not a single fat person in the world who doesn't, because that's all that's on your mind. Yep. And it doesn't matter how healthy you are, or how positive an outlook you have on your body, or all of that. If you're happy in your skin, you always know how to be healthier. You always know how to be better. Yeah. There's a reason you're not doing it. And maybe you don't want to. And if you don't want to, then what are you looking for advice for? And good for you. I'm happy for everyone who's like that. I wish I could be like that. But if you do want to change something, it's okay to get a professional to do it for you. Like, they're not even that expensive. It's cheaper to pay someone who knows what they're talking about, take their advice, listen to it in its entirety. Maybe you learn from it. Maybe you develop. Maybe you're the type of person who likes to take things and then develop them into their own way. Whatever. If you need an accountant, you go to an accountant. If you need a lawyer, you go and see a lawyer. But if someone needs a nutritionist, suddenly they're an expert. What for? If you need to learn how to lift weights, you need to learn how to do jiu-jitsu. What, you're an expert? How many, you must have met 1,000 guys who, I can't go to jiu-jitsu. I'd hurt someone. Mm. And I'm I just see red. Like, what?
Yeah.
what? Like, maybe if a chimpanzee sees red when he fights, and what good is it? It's a sport, So you go and see an expert. I don't need an expert to teach me how to fight. Then you'll lose.
Yeah.
Some people can do it on their own. Most people can't. That's why these multi-billion-pound industries exist. And that's why every personal trainer has a list of clients that are successful. Yeah. Because all that you have to do to be successful is just carry on turning up. The professionals have seen it all. They've seen people, they've seen the excuses, they know where it goes wrong, and they'll guide you right.
Yeah.
It's okay not to know things. I think that was a big part for me, was it wasn't okay not to know the answer. Someone asked me loads of times during my weight loss, so how are you doing? So I don't know. I get given the list and I eat what's on the list. I do nothing else. And they went, oh, well, how does it work? Did you follow? I said, I follow the list.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. And now as I'm at the end of it, as I'm all at the end, but I'm starting to branch out. Bear in mind, I've been doing this it's been more than a year. I just followed the list, just eat the list. There's nothing but the list. We need to update the list. Okay, update the list. There you go. That's it. Now I'm like, oh, I'm going to branch out. I'm going to do my own little thing. I know the list is there.
Yeah.
That's it. The professional's there. He's done his bit.
Yeah. You've always got that scaffolding.
Yeah. You can branch out. You can do all of that. But when you start anything, find a professional. Copy them. Listen to them. Pay them. It doesn't matter. But use a professional. They exist for a reason. You wouldn't try and fly a plane if you didn't know how. And the human body is a lot more complicated than an airplane.
Yeah, it is.
So, just that's my advice. That's my thing. If you want to be good at someone, find someone else who's good at it and go and talk to them.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today, Ben.
No, thank you for having me, man.
Have you got any socials that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I do have Instagram. It'll be tagged at the bottom of this video, I assume.
I'll put it in the description. Yeah, well, I'll tag him in the reels that we do.
There you go. I'll be tagged everywhere. It's Ben Piers, Ben_Piers.
Yeah.
PEERS.
Boom.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you again probably in 2024, everybody.